Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to She Roams Free. Most of us are living to work, not working to live. But what if you could step outside of this system? What if you could reclaim your time, travel the world, and live on your own terms? In this episode, I'm going to break down why our current work culture keeps us stuck and why living abroad just might be the answer you're looking for to taking your time and your life back. Stay tuned. Okay guys, we all know what it's like to work in the corporate working environment, right? There's a weekly schedule, 40 hours a week at minimum. You're working 5 days a week. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Who came up with this system? What exactly is this? What is this 9 to 5? Who said we get to work 5 days a week and we only get 2 days off? So who came up with this method, this 9 to 5? It was Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company. In 1926, Ford said, you know what? I want my employees to have a work-life balance. So what he did was he created this 5 day a week, 2 days off on a weekend schedule. At that time, employees were working 10 to 12 hours, and that was just too much for employees. Sounds familiar, right? I mean, 10 to 12 hours was a lot back then, and it seemed like the norm for us today, right? In 1938, the US government officially established the 40-hour work week under the Fair Labor Standards Act. The 40-hour week was revolutionary in the 1920s. But why are we still living by the rules built for factory workers in that was a century ago? I mean, times have changed a lot, right? These rules aren't working for us. We are burnt out. How much of our lives is spent working? You know what I'm talking about. How many hours we spend working? We're working between 40 to 60 hours a week. When we think about the number of hours we're working, let's break it down, right? So for example, you may say, well, I'm only working 40 hours a week. When you count in the commute time, before we even get to commute, let me say, when you count in the time you spend getting ready for work, it may take you about an hour at minimum, right? If you have children, double that to 2 hours. So that's 2 hours that you already spent working, preparing for work. You just ain't getting paid for it. Then add in the time to once you get to the office, you're working 9 hours. Your 8 hours you're working, maybe you have an hour lunch break, and then in the evening time, you're driving back home. Of course, if you have kids, you're picking your kids up. So you're spending about 14 to 16 hours a day working. And not to mention for those of us that work remotely, they may say, oh, they're not spending a whole lot of time working. Yes, we are. Because that time that we're not commuting, we're still getting ready. And guess what? Most of us cannot turn it off. That work is literally everything about work that we forget to complete a task is living in our brain. So that time we're not getting paid, we're still working. Ask yourself, is this the life you dreamed of? The American dream or the American nightmare? Let's talk about remote work. I mean, there's a myth going on and people think when you work remote, you ain't really working. That's not true. I've been working remote for 6 years now. And it's awesome that I don't have to commute nowhere. I can save on gas. However, I'm still working. And when I get up in the morning, I'm still spending about an hour or two working because I'm preparing for work. And once I get to the desk, I'm working. And once I get off of work, I'm still working. You know why? There's no separation. Because I literally have an office at home. When you're working at the office, you can just let it go and say, hey, I'll handle that tomorrow, or I'm so glad to walk away from this until Monday, after the weekend. But when you're working from home, you can't get away from it. You can't kick it out. That's your office space. I mean, I can go and close the door and I'm still thinking about work because I know the office is there. If I pass by the office, even though the door is closed, I'm still thinking about work. And poor Phil, my spouse, he has to hear me talk about work all the time. And the door is right next to his man cave. That's bad, that's just so bad. The work environment can be mentally draining if you let it. So what I decided to do in my life is to take risks. I decided that I was no longer going to allow the corporate America work environment control my life. I wanted to take control in my own hands. And by doing so, I decided that I would travel the world and work for myself. So I'm currently working as an independent contractor in the workday space. This allows me time to spend with my family, to travel the world. Not just travel the world, but be able to relate and connect with the locals, right? And it's not just about traveling the world. It is a sense of peace. If you are out there and you have traveled the world, traveled different countries outside the US, you may be aware of something that's very common. Have you noticed that everywhere you go, it seems that people are very calm, they happy, they move at a slower pace. That's what it's like in the work environment as well. Now, I haven't personally worked in other countries just yet, but my spouse has, and one of my friends has as well. They have worked in other countries for months, if not years at a time. And they mentioned something that just made me, it blew my mind what they mentioned to me. They mentioned that everything is slow. If there is something due that particular day at work, everyone takes their time, no one is rushing, everything is not urgent is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to get my words out here. There is no rush as we're used to seeing in the US. Again, I mentioned I work in a Workday consulting space, and Workday is doing a lot of great things, and they've been doing great things since Workday went live 20 years ago, right? But one of the issues that I see from my experience is that customers go in, they have interest in Workday, they want to implement the process or optimize the process, and they don't really know the system. After they go live, no one on their team still know the system. And that's what we're there for. We're there to help and advise them. However, it's important that their team learn and understand the system, because they're not gonna always have someone there, right? They're gonna continuously be spending a lot of money on resources on the outside because their team don't know the process. And what I'm saying here is we don't take enough time in America to really understand the concept. And that's just with anything. I just happen to give an example about the work environment, but we do not take the time to really fully understand the concept and analyze what we're doing. Everything is just such a fast pace. So when I say I am leaving the corporate American environment to travel the world, it's not just to travel the world, which is great, but it's also peace of mind, going at a slower pace, learning about myself, learning about other cultures. I want to experience that. And also living in different countries, the cost of living is much more or less expensive. Where if you're living in these other countries, you may not feel like you have to work yourself like a dog. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth. We work ourselves so much because we're so focused on having things and taking care of our families. Everything is expensive, and everything is continuously becoming more expensive. We can't keep up with inflation. Our salaries are not keeping up with inflation. So there's a big issue here. So if you are open to open your mind and exploring what life could be, not just in the US, but in other countries, I challenge you to do your research. Do it, if not for yourself, do it for your family. So one of the things I'm going to recommend you do if you're trying to look for other options, you no longer want to work yourself to the bone. You want to have more freedom to spend with your family and just work less so that you can do more of the things you enjoy doing. In the current job you're in today, what type of skills do you have that you could utilize to turn into a business? Whether you're starting a business or becoming an independent contractor, think about those skills now. If there are, say you don't like your current job, then you can do something else. There's always going to be something that you learn and gain from that job that you could then move into another job. So I want you to take time to do that. You need to find ways that you could separate yourself from 9 to 5. I mean, either way it go, even if you're not looking to transition into another career, I need to challenge you to also think about other streams of income. So if not just so that you can switch jobs, think about side gigs. The point is to be able to buy your freedom, your time back. And I believe traveling abroad can do that. The cost of living, as I mentioned, is inexpensive in a lot of these countries, which will allow you to spend less and invest more for your future so that you won't feel like you're having to work until you're 60 and 70 years old. I mean, let's be honest. We see the people that's 60 and 70 years old retiring and they're on the beach. They look exhausted, I'm just being honest. I mean, I'm not talking about celebrities, I'm talking about the real people that are working these 9 to 5 jobs. We're tired. And who said you have to wait until you're 65 and 70 years old to enjoy your life? I mean, where does that even come from? Why do you want to do what everyone else is doing? What are you afraid of? You have to be willing to open your mind and do this and try something different for your family. I don't know where to start. I got $100,000 in debt. You need to start somewhere. You need to believe in yourself. AI is reshaping jobs, remote digital opportunities are growing. This is the perfect time to step out. I want you guys to think about this. Do not think of AI in a negative way. Do not think about AI, oh, AI is going to take our jobs. Think about how you can utilize AI to make your life better, improve your life, not just your personal life, but your work life. For example, prior to me using any AI tool, I will go to work, I will have my meetings, I will capture meeting notes, and it would take me a whole hour after that meeting to prep those meeting notes to send out to the team. Now that I have been using AI tools, for example, ChatGPT, it takes only a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes for me to send this email with the meeting notes to the team. Now, I'm not saying use AI to write all of your blogs and your summaries and your meeting notes. I'm saying this is information in your own words, and you ask AI to review the information, remove any grammar errors that you may have, and to put into a summary or bullet points, for example. And it can do that in just minutes. That's an example of how to utilize AI tool to make your life better. Also, take some training. There are free training out there that's available through Coursera for the first 3 weeks, I believe, that you could take an AI training. If you go over 3 weeks, for example, you could just pay 1 month through Coursera, which I believe is $44 something, and then you could be done with the course, just so you can get an understanding of the AI tools that's available and how to communicate with AI tools. Because it's important that you get this right, like learning about prompts and learning what outputs are. You need to be able to utilize this information in your work life and your daily life to make your life easier. Because you need to be able to grow with what the change is. Do not get left behind. The other thing is AI is changing a lot, right? I mean, if I'm using Workday as an example, Workday had already presented AI agents. And for those of you who do not know what AI agents are, and I'll have something pop on the screen here, AI agents are basically beings in the system. They're artificial intelligence that are responsible for certain tasks within that particular database. So for example, Workday had just recently released AI agents for recruiting. And that individual in the system is assigned to a supervisory organization, which is pretty much a manager and all of their employees that directly report to that manager. And that AI agent sits in that soup org, and you're able to assign security to it. You're able to assign security to it and say, hey, I need you to go and vet these candidates that complete an application. And then once they're done, push them through the next step of the business process to do the interview. Isn't that crazy? I'm just giving you guys an example of how fast AI is changing. I need you to stay involved, go and get some training and learn how to utilize these tools. The American system tells us that life is about work. But when you live abroad, you realize life is about living. You don't have to wait until retirement to start enjoying your life. Would you live abroad if it meant you can work less and live more? Let me know in the comments, where would you love to live and why? That's all, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Peace and love.